today. Welcome to a very special Thursday of Evan and Tiki here on WFAN. We will hear from Bad Tiki like we always do. Coming up a little bit later on, Joe Kelly is at it again. We will fix the NFL draft, and we have a lot of opinions on Aaron Boone extension, as he'll remain with the Yankees not just this year, but for 2 more years after that.
He just went to the World Series.
I know.
For Christ's sakes, calm down.
I'm happy for him. He got an extension. Good for Booney. We'll get to all of it coming up. Your phone calls throughout the show as well. 888-808-1019. But a little vibe check right now. I've got my American flag. I have it right here. I'm unfurling it, or whatever that term is.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm holding it up.
Wrong way. Turn it the other way.
Crap, that's a distress signal. My bad. I'm holding it up correctly now in front of my face. And yeah.
USA.
USA. I am pumped up for tonight's Four Nations face-off. So let's get a little vibe check around here. A little vibe check. Tiki, Four Nations, we excited?
I actually, look, so I watched the first game that they had. That was against Canada, the third period. And they scored that empty netter. It was kind of tight. They emptied the goal with, 2 minutes left to go or whatever it was. And the finisher came, and it was like, yes! Don't boo us ever again type of thing. I kind of got into it for no other reason that Canada booed the United States.
That inspired you.
The national, that's what made me watch it.
Interesting.
And so, look, we talked about this the other day and how it's only 4 nations and it's all NHL players from those 4 nations. As Sean said yesterday, if Russia was allowed to be in it, they probably would have wiped the ice with the United States, even though I don't think that's necessarily true. But there's something engaging about it. And I was listening to PK Subban talk about this the other day. And he said something like, some people are saying this is bigger than the Stanley Cup. Some people think that this is one of the best, most important matches some of these young players will ever play because they've never been in the Stanley Cup and they might not be in the Stanley Cup. And I thought about it. I was like, that's absurd. But then I started thinking about it for a second, and I said, you know what? This is probably bigger than the Stanley Cup for most of this country.
What about you? You think it's bigger than the Stanley Cup?
I do think it's bigger than the Stanley Cup, and here's why. Because hockey is so regional. Like, people here will understand, they love hockey. They're big Islander fans. They're big Devil fans. They're big Ranger fans. So they love hockey. It's like ingrained in their soul if you're a New York sports fan. But if you're in Mississippi or, Ohio or somewhere else that's not as hockey-centric as New York is, you don't necessarily care about the Stanley Cup. But you care about USA.
Right.
Even if you don't understand the context of what USA-Canada is in this, all-star game replacement, I guess is the best way to think about this.
Yeah.
But you do know it's our country versus that country.
It's crazy because I hear you say, and you say something, and then you say a lot of other things, but there's one thing I heard that I go back to. It's like the headline that you can't get out of your head, which is, this is bigger than the Stanley Cup. And you hear that, and I'm sure Sean is not thrilled with that comment, but we'll get to you in a minute. And I hear that, and I think to myself, wow, Tiki's crazy. It has it bigger than the Stanley Cup. But then you think about it for a second, and I want everyone to ask themselves this question. Last year, the Stanley Cup Finals didn't feature the Rangers. It didn't feature the Islanders. It didn't feature the Devils. It featured the Florida Panthers, and I'm trying to remember who they beat in 7. I'm going to go with Edmonton Oilers. And it was a 3-0 lead that they almost blew, and it went 7. I don't think I watched more than 5 minutes of the Stanley Cup Finals.
I 100% agree with you. In fact, someone asked me that question. Who won? Or they said, who won? I said, it's the Panthers. Who'd they play? You got at least close with Edmonton. I think it was Edmonton. I had zero idea. I had no idea.
Well, you know what?
And I only knew who won because your sister and your nephew are Panthers fans.
Right.
If they weren't not, and you hadn't talked about it, you hadn't given us the growl, or whatever the heck you want to call it, I honestly would not have known who won the Stanley Cup last year.
So that kind of proves, as crazy as it sounds off the top, like this is bigger than the Stanley Cup final, it kind of proves you're correct. Because for most of us who are going to watch and consume this game tonight, I think a lot of people are. Clearly, if you look at what the TV rating was past Saturday, there's going to be a big, huge rating for tonight. We're going to consume a hockey game that we're not going to consume if all our local teams are not in a Stanley Cup final.
That's correct.
Which, let's face it, is likelier than not that we're staring at, the Capitals against the Winnipeg Jets in the Stanley Cup final. So you're kind of right. And it's sort of backed up by the TV rating. 4.5 million people watched the USA against Canada last Saturday night. That was a higher number than I think 4 or 5 of the 7 Stanley Cup final games that were played last season. So it's weird. It's a headline you hear, and it's like, what does Tiki know?
Yeah, shut up.
Stick to football.
Black people don't play hockey.
But you're kind of right. Like, tonight, we have options. The Knicks are back. My Nets are still playing basketball. And then there's USA against Canada in a completely made-up tournament. I admit that. But there's a good chance that most of us are going to watch more hockey tonight than we will in June when the Stanley Cup Finals take place. So, Sean, I know this is bothering you because if you missed yesterday's show, Sean was not happy that New York Ranger Adam Fox came out and said he was as pumped up for tonight's game as he's been for any game he's played. And I saw you on social media posting how much you hate this and you don't like USA Canada and you're not going to watch. But I think you got to face the facts. Tiki's right. This is bigger than the Stanley Cup.
There's a couple different layers to this. I think Tiki laid out a great argument. For any person living in America who is not attached to an NHL team, of which there's more of that than there are those that are attached to an NHL team, it is bigger than the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
And I don't have any issue with international competition. In fact, I love the Olympics, and I love that the NHL players are going back to it. However, if you're a hockey fan, as such, we would be speaking to in this town where we have 3 teams, all, by the way, currently in contention, either in the playoffs like the Devils or scratching and clawing when they come back like a Ranger and Islander fan. I question, what the hell is wrong with you? What the hell is wrong with you that tonight you can't wait to gather your popcorn, your chips, your dip, and your beers and root adamantly for guys you will be rooting against in 3 days and root harder, dare I say, for some of you than you will for some of your teams coming back? Look. You have national pride? I got no issue with that. You want to just find...
Oh, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to have
but I'm
national
saying
pride.
it's the same thing like when the World Cup rolls around, you get people who wouldn't normally watch soccer. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with growing the sport. What I can't get down with is players in this game like Adam Fox saying they are more jacked up for this than any game they've played when I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror after the Rangers lost to the Panthers last year. Maybe I'm too crazy a fan. Maybe I'm all that. To me, man, we have a duty as fans to our teams we pay money to see than for a team that was thrown together and made up for a tournament we still don't know what they win. I think the whole thing is preposterous.
Pride. They win pride.
What you are getting into tonight is something fake. You are watching WrestleMania tonight. Now, the players are going to play hard, and the outcome will be real, but it is a made-up moment for fake national pride to make you feel good. And by the time Friday afternoon rolls around, you're going to realize, oh, yeah, that didn't really mean anything.
What's fake about proving to Canada, at least in this mini-sized, bite-sized tournament, that we're better than them at the sport they created? What's fake about that?
Well, American teams have won the Stanley Cup way more than Canadian teams who have.
Well, that's not the same, though.
Well, that's
not
American pride.
That's not the same.
Is that true?
Yeah, no Canadian team since the 93 Canadians.
Yeah, but how many Canadian teams do we have?
How many Stanley Cups does the Montreal Canadiens have?
A ton, none since 93.
Okay, how many do they have in total? Because since you're a Yankee fan, you should know.
23?
24.
24,
Exactly.
okay.
Look at you.
You know who's second on that list?
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Another Canadian
But
team.
they have. What have you
How
done
many
for me
do they
lately?
have? They have 13.
Yeah, but what have you done for me
But
lately?
Sean, that's not even the point. Like, there are Canadian players on American
Of course
teams,
there
and there
are.
are American players on Canadian
Don't
teams.
make my argument dumb. I'm aware.
My only point is, this is national pride.
Right. So if Gavin, if
what's
Gavin
wrong
in
with-
Mississippi is fired up tonight, I got bless his heart. I hope he is. I hope he buys a USA jersey and goes crazy. I am not sitting down tonight and going, oh, I hope Jack Hughes avoids a check into the boards. I hope Jack Hughes gets annihilated into the glass tonight. I'm sorry.
You're not even rooting for the U.S.?
Well, I'm not rooting for any of my enemies. Islanders, Devils, Flyers, Capitals players, I hope they all get crushed. I'm sorry.
You're going to have to renounce your citizenship by the end of this day.
I'm dying. I hope this is true. Chris Kreider should be scratched tonight. I need his ass healthy for Buffalo on Saturday. Sorry, I'm out.
Look, I'm not arguing with you, and I don't think anyone would, any sane person would, that you put this above your team. like you are a Ranger fan. You want to make the playoffs. You want to make sure your guys are healthy. But you can do both things at the same time.
Sure, you can have a piece of both.
Like, did you watch the World Baseball Classic? Did you root for Team USA? How did you feel about that?
That's the thing.
How do you feel about Aaron Judge saying yesterday, I want to participate in the World Baseball Classic?
Right. By the way, Buffalo's never won a Stanley Cup, have they?
Buffalo, no. Dominic Hasek.
They lost to the Dallas Stars in the Stanley
Good
Cup
job by
final.
you,
Look
Brett
at me.
Hall.
Thank you.
Look, Aaron Judge, I have no problem with that. By the way, if this tournament was like the lead-in and supplemented preseason, I think I would like it more. I just don't like that I've already been engulfed in a season. We're taking this long a break to accomplish something that is not the Olympics, and then we're returning. Aaron Judge wants to go gaga in March. Guess what? All right, he's still getting his at-bats and preparing for a Yankee season. This is taking a pause in your priority away from the ultimate prize that I've been scratching and clawing on since I was 7 years old that the Rangers still can't do.
There is one thing that you would be right about in terms of the hypocrisy of this whole thing. Yesterday, Adam Fox, and we played this clip on our show late yesterday, Adam Fox said, hey, listen, man, I'm as pumped up, as fired up for this.
The most jacked up I've ever been for a game. Don't say as. If he was as pumped up, that means equally pumped up.
Okay.
The most means last year, when I'm basically a nervous wreck for 14 hours before every Ranger Panther game, he wasn't feeling the same feelings as me.
Okay.
And that pisses me off.
Why?
Because, Tiki.
He was just doing his job.
But you should feel.
Oh, that's harsh.
You should
Playing for the New York Rangers is, quote, just doing your job.
That is his job.
Playing for Team USA is about pride.
Yes.
have some pride in your
It's
work.
about the old red, white, and blue.
The colors the Rangers wear.
Stop.
Here's where I do think you're right about this. So I reached out to CeeLo earlier today, and I was curious because CeeLo and Boomer are two guys I respect. They're very big Ranger fans. They're hockey fans. They're similar to you in terms of their fandom, but I think you're a little bit more extreme in terms of getting angry about this. And so I reached out to CeeLo, and I said, CeeLo, did you see what Adam Fox said? And CeeLo said, I'm aware. I said, okay. What did you think? And he was very diplomatic about it, which is what CeeLo is, very Switzerland-like, as the morning guys aptly describe him, where he's like, yeah, I didn't love it, but, you know, I understand. Like, he was very in the middle. And I said, what'd Boomer think about it? Because I know Boomer is a diehard Ranger fan. We all respect his Ranger fandom, just not his breaking news around Pete Alonso, and his American pride. And CeeLo said he didn't mind it. Where I think there is a little bit of hypocrisy from the hockey fan out there, I admit this, is if Aaron Judge said about the World Baseball Classic, or Edwin Diaz said about the World Baseball Classic, I am more jacked up for that than the Mets and the Yankees. I think these phone banks would be packed with people pissed off at them.
But think about this for a second. So when you think about hockey and U.S. hockey, it goes back so deep. I mean, some of these guys weren't even born when you talk Russia, USA, right? And there's this storied history of international hockey. There isn't a storied history of international baseball, right? It's a modern creation.
That's true.
And so it's not something if you were, I don't know, 5 years old and baseball happened to be your sport, you weren't saying, I can't wait to play for Team USA. But if you were you're a 5-year-old hockey player, and your dad's told you these stories and about USA hockey, and do you believe in miracle, all that other nonsense? As a 5-year-old, you're saying, I want to play for USA. I want to play hockey for my country.
Yeah.
It's something that you dream. I mean, hell, I love track and field. All I wanted to do was compete for the U.S. in the Olympics. Right? Actually, more so than football. And football got in the way, obviously, and it was a successful decision that I made to take this route. No, I wanted to be a track star, and I'm not even joking. Right. Ronnie was a national champion indoor hurdles, and so it was our goal. And then football became, obviously, it got us into school, and then it's just something that took over our lives. But I still love track and field. I still love the Olympics, and a lot of it is because when I was 5 years old or 8 years old, Carl Lewis was showing out for Team USA, right? And so you can't forget that. And I think Adam Fox, like some of these other hockey players, they don't forget what the national team, the Team USA, means to this country and to them.
I think there are two other things that are causing more pride, more excitement in this as compared to baseball. Number one, I'm just going to be honest. And some people are going to be offended by it, and they just have to realize that I'm calling balls and strikes right now. I'm just telling you how it is.
It's not automated yet?
Not quite yet. This is true. More people are pumped up because we currently have a political feud with Canada.
Right.
The President of the United States has said we're going to add Canada as the 51st state. That's a part of this. If you want to put your head in the sand and act like it doesn't involve this, you're crazy. That's a part of it. There is a current ongoing feud. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't even matter. There is a feud with Canada.
Yeah.
And one thing about country pride is even if you disagree with leadership, you're always prideful in your country.
No doubt.
And that is a part of this. If there was no battle with Canada right now over tariffs and 51st statedom, there wouldn't be as much passion. There'd still be passion,
right.
Not as much.
They also chose to boo our national anthem.
Then they connected to that.
Right, 100%.
Right? So it's all connected, right? The Canadians chose to boo our national anthem because they're pissed off at what's going on diplomatically right now between our two countries.
Yeah.
That is absolutely a factor. If you don't think it is, you're delusional.
Tariff wars, it became nothing.
Absolutely. For now.
For now.
The second thing is in baseball was so freaking arrogant. It's our sport. We know it's our sport. And we don't care if the Dominican or Japan beats us in a game. Our attitude is shut up. It's our sport. In hockey, we know it's not our sport.
No, you're right. It's Canada's.
We know it's Canada's. And so beating them is more prideful because it's like, ha, 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 we just beat you at what you're supposed to be good at. It's like Sean and I, we had this great trivia contest yesterday. If we just had a trivia contest squarely about presidents, Sean would take more pride in beating me in that than if we had a trivia contest about hamburgers that are sold at fast food joints. Because that's his specialty.
Oh, that's all right. You know what? Carry on. You're right.
Like, no, I object. No, never
You're
mind.
right. You're right.
Yeah, I am right.
I do know more about hamburgers than presidents.
So I think not that we're inferior in hockey, but our ability or our attempt to prove that we're not adds to the pride, along with what's going on politically. And I think those two things make tonight a night where the ratings are going to be huge and people care whether Sean Morash cares or not.
Well, there's another part of it. I think you nailed two important things. And there's one more part of this that bothers me because I used to be guilty of it. And it's a shame that Boomer Esiason is still guilty of it.
Well, what are you killing Boomer for?
This is a hockey fan thing. Hockey fans feel disrespected.
Yes.
Whether it's on television, radio, talking circles, they're tired of being told nobody cares about something they care about. So when hockey fan, like Stadium Series last year, or this Four Nations this year, gets a little crumb off the cookie, they will never turn it into a negative because they're like, I got to grab any positive I can. So every Ranger fan, Devil fan, Islander fan out there that is passionately pumped up tonight, ask yourself truthfully, are you really, or do you feel like you're supposed to because you love hockey and you see people that normally don't are into this and you feel like it's a part of representing the sport you love? Do you really deep down really care, or is it a fake care? Because I used to fake care about these stupid, dopey stuff like this, and this isn't the Olympics. I don't give a crap when this tournament ends. If any of you casuals do not watch the playoffs, do not watch the Stanley Cup, the sport is healthy, I don't care. I love the growth, get it, but I don't care if you don't stick with it. So I don't care now that you love it. Sorry, I used to.
All right, just because Adam Fox pissed you off.
Pissed me off beyond belief.
And he's making you lose your ever-loving mind right now. America disagrees with you.
I know they do.
The rating tells you America disagrees with you.
I'm asking hockey fan to agree with me.
Okay, there were a lot of hockey fans that were in that category. So, I mean, some non-hockey fans, there were probably a lot of hockey fans who were watching their Canadian local star play for Team Canada or their American local star play for Team USA. There were a lot of hockey fans watching the Four Nations, whatever it was, face-off thing over the weekend. And so I know what you're saying. I think you're blinded by your ire for Adam Fox right now.
I probably am. And tricky spot tonight, Tiki. Game tied up, overtime. America on the edge of their seats. Let me ask you something, Ranger fans, of which you're plenty of listening. Jack Hughes scores the winning goal for Team USA tonight. You jumping up and slapping hands? If you are, I don't want to see you at the parade when the Rangers finally have one. Tiki.
Why are they mutually exclusive?
Because that's a guy we have been taught to hate. He's on our rival.
Tiki, you said the word blindly.
Yes.
You were correct, but the wrong B word. Sean is bitter because his team full of weenies are not that good, and he knows it. So now hockey's getting attention, and is it for his stupid team that you can set your watch to that loses in the playoffs every single year? So now we'll rally the hockey fans who often are in the shadows to go against Team USA. He's bitter. If the Rangers had 40 wins right now, he wouldn't care because he'd be telling you that they're going to win because O.J. Simpson allegedly committed murder 30 years ago, and we could go back to that bit. That's all this is. That's all it is. You're bitter. You have anything to say for that? You're bitter.
No, but now I want to look up in 95 if there was any international.
Exactly.
Okay, Wimpy.
We'll come
Okay,
back
Wimpy.
and get to your phone calls. A lot of Americans are fired up. Either they're fired up.
Whitby doesn't get used enough.
Wimpy is awesome.
It is a great one. Are you fired up for this? Do you agree with Tiki? It's bigger than the Stanley Cup. I mean, it makes a compelling case. We'll get your calls at 888-808-1019, and we'll answer a very important question that I think 80% of the audience does know the answer to, which is what the hell happens if it goes to overtime? And what if it remains tied? We'll give you the rules of what actually happens. We'll get to Aaron Boone's contract extension. We'll hear from Bad Tiki, and we're going to fix the biggest issue that the NFL is facing. All today on this jam-packed 4.5-hour program.